because
there can be many curious people in the world, and we're not all the same.
So I was like, I went like, what is this organization all about? So I went and checked you guys out, and I saw that you got such a really good vibe going on. You got your second year festival, and I thought, well, let me reach out to them. The fact we use the same hashtag for not curious, so I thought, hey, I've got to have a conversation.
There's going to be some confusion over the next few weeks, isn't there?
Hopefully in a good, positive way, though.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought, hey, let's just chat to you and perhaps talk about your organization, what you've got going on, raise some awareness, and generally have a nice, comfortable conversation on a podcast. So I'm glad that you responded and you're up to do that. It's fantastic. Thank you. So I guess in many ways, do we really need an intro? I don't think so. I guess we're quite comfortable going with a bit of a flow here. So perhaps you could introduce your name and what you do and your organization. I guess we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'm Megan Shaw. I work for a very small charity called Ignite, and we do lots of work with schools and youth groups and community groups, kind of engaging people in lots of different topics, but all kind of around the two issues of creativity and curiosity, and where they kind of come together and how we can, inspire those kind of skills in young people. And we, many years ago, 6 years ago, we kind of were involved with other partners in the first Festival of Science and Curiosity, and then since then we're now kind of contracted to deliver the festival. So the festival is a separate company, separate charity, but it's still basically us.
So that's really cool. I mean, so is that how it all kind of came together then? So it was two organizations, or was one evolved into the other? Is that how it's worked?
Yeah. So this was kind of before my time, but in 2012, Ignite ran a pop-up shop in the Broadmarsh Shopping Centre on the top floor that was called 321 Ignition, and we kind of took over the space for, I think it was like 6 weeks, filled it with like workshops and activities for school groups, but also open to the public. And that was like a kind of first kind of spark of kind of street level engagement with science. And working with, the libraries and Broadway, partners like Broadway and the STEM ambassadors and the city council. And then these kind of groups came together for that, and then kind of wanted to, saw the potential in that as kind of moving to not one place based, but based across lots of different places as a festival. So yeah, it's always been massively kind of partnership based, working with across branch libraries and lots of the kind of everybody kind of throwing what they can to the festival to make it what it is, basically.
Okay,
yeah.
So how many years has it been running now? Because I'm a bit confused by the time. Is it 2012 or is it very new?
So that was kind of like early days. I think there was like a fallow year somewhere. My first festival was 2017, and then this one is officially the 6th official festival in 2021. So it's a bit of a murky history that everybody's forgotten, really, because everybody's so busy. But yeah, this is the 6th one.
So how long does it take to plan your festival? I mean, how long has that taken for this year?
I mean, we usually start. We do the festival, and then we're like, and then we start thinking about it like a month later. But because a lot of the activities are delivered by academics and students and people from the universities, we kind of start pulling the program together when they come back in the autumn term. So kind of September, October, we start to get some ideas, and we're always kind of fundraising as well throughout the year to kind of put projects together for the festival. So it kind of, it kind of heats up a bit from like November time, but it's kind of all year round, really.
I helped organise some of the festivals on the Arboretum from 2009. Did that with the Pride Festival, the Pagan Pride Festivals, Green Festivals, and so on. So yeah, I can certainly appreciate that feeling where it really is it's just non-stop business once it starts flowing, and then before you know it, it's here and it's all gone, and then you're like debrief.
Exactly. The advantage that we have though is ours is in February, so we never plan anything to be outdoors. So we never have to worry about it raining, really. Whereas if you're running things in outdoor spaces in the summer, there's always that anxiety of, will it be a rubbish weather day? So we have to consider that.
No, that's a really good idea. Have your festival inside. Don't worry about the weather or the cold. One of the things I reached out to you as well, as I said, I guess for the podcast, because I guess we were talking beforehand. I was talking to the Astronomical Society of Mansfield and Sherwood, what they've got organisation-wise going on up there, and they were like, "Hey, you've got to get in contact with these guys." And then I realised that you and I were using the same like hashtag for Curious Knots, and from there I was like, had to reach out to you. So I'm kind of glad you've taken the time out to have a quick conversation. However, it does appear your screen has frozen.
Oh no! I can see you.
Okay. No, I think that's working. I think that's okay now. You're good.
Okay.
So yeah, as I was saying, I was talking to the guys up there, and they were like, "Hey, you got to get in contact with them. They're a really good bunch of guys, and they've got some stuff going off up at the observatory." So, what kind of activities have you guys got lined up then this year?
Yeah, so obviously, like this year's been completely different. We managed to get our festival in right at the end. We were like probably one of the only festivals that managed to go ahead in 2020. So yeah, we had to rethink a lot of things basically. I mean, usually we run events in libraries and shopping centres and spaces, you know, public spaces, like markets and yeah, those kinds of things. So obviously we were holding on hope that we might be able to get back to doing some small things like that, but in October we just gave up on that. So it's all online basically. So we've got like in the half-term program, we've got workshops and activities for families to do at home, with very simple kind of household materials that you don't need to spend a lot of money on. We've got the Sherwood Observatory guys are doing like a YouTube like open dome kind of event where they'll be streaming, talking about this particular project that they're working on about the replacement for the Hubble telescope. One of the most exciting things is that we've never done before is we've made a 5 hours of television. Okay. That's going to be going out on Knots TV,
Sure.
Which is super exciting because we've never done anything like that before. And it's going to be called Woollerton Watch.
Okay.
Inspired by obviously BBC Springwatch, which we were all watching a lot of in the first lockdown. And we've been going out and filming lots of natural environments and wildlife across the county. And it will be like, 5 hours of kind of the one show / BBC Springwatch / A Up Knots, for family kind of audiences. So that's really exciting because that's like something we would have never have done in a normal year. So we've had to kind of figure out new ways of doing things, like everyone really.
I think that's a really interesting point. Is that the way that the lockdown has actually happened and has restricted so many things, actually, it's made a lot of people think out of the box, and there's some really inventive ideas about what people have been getting up to.
Yeah, exactly. And we could have set the bar lower for ourselves, but we were like, no, we're going to do a whole week of television. We could have just done one program, but we've got enough content, and it's quite exciting. And we've got we've been working with students from NTU to do the filming. We've got a media student who's going to be working with us on the presenting. So we're still kind of that's one of the things we like to do as a festival is provide opportunities for young people to kind of experience things as well. So we've still been able to do a lot of that stuff. So that's exciting.
Yeah, because I guess like you said there, it really engages the university. The people can get involved, and actually for them, they get their experience out of it. They get to develop their programs. They get to develop their what do they call it? Their portfolio. And obviously for you, you get hands-on team who are really enthusiastic and involved. Yeah,
exactly. And the same thing we've so usually we produce like a printed program. This year we've produced a magazine. This was one of the things that we wanted to do. It was very, very early on in kind of in the first lockdown, there was all this stuff about digital access and families not being able to have kind of consistent and regular access in lots of parts of the country. So we wanted to produce something that was physical and could go home through schools or picked up at food banks. So we've made this magazine that's got lots of kind of articles and puzzles and all very accessible. But that's been put together by 3 confetti students. So they're 16, 17-year-olds, and they've made this 24-page magazine for us, and it's so good. And they've been been one of the highlights of working with them, really, because they're so creative and they're so good. It's like working with professionals, really.
That really is. It's a joy, isn't it, when you can empower people and they're enthused as well, and then you produce something that's actually quite magnificent, or ideas that perhaps would never have been thought of or actioned. And here we are, and you've got so many creative things going on.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win all around, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
So tell me a bit more about the dates then, because it's I guess it's running for half term, right?
Yeah, so we usually run from Wednesday to Wednesday. So we have some time in the school time. We have a weekend, and then we have some time in half term. But this year, because of Bulletin Watch, and because we kind of wanted to do more with schools, we've extended. So it's actually running from Monday to Wednesday. So it's the 8th to the 17th. So there's kind of there's usually like three phases. So, stuff in schools, stuff in the city centre, and then stuff out in communities. But this year it's obviously all online. But we've got kind of talks as well, panel discussions throughout that whole period too, for kind of adults. So, yeah.
All right. So when you talk about, say, adults and kids, what can they do? What can people get involved and get their teeth into, as it were? What science can they?
Yeah, so some of our adult program, we kind of started this in earnest really last year, and kind of on the model of like Pint of Science. I don't know if you've ever come across that as a kind of science engagement thing. It's run by students from both universities, and they basically do a series of panel discussions in pubs. And it's usually in May, and it's like this international thing, and it started in London, I think, but it's now spreaded across the world. And they have these themed kind of talks. So we've kind of taken that model and having kind of theme discussions, but really relevant issues for people. And it's interesting that this year it's kind of, we've got a lot of talks that are kind of around health science and medicine, which kind of just happens organically because we just respond to what we've got speakers for, basically. But it's kind of interesting that we've got a panel discussion about the future of medicine. We've got some scientists talking from Quotient Sciences about what is a clinical trial. Obviously, lots of myths around clinical trials and lots of kind of misunderstandings of what that is. Yeah. And we've got a panel discussion around kind of broad sustainability issues as well. So yeah, kind of opportunity for researchers to talk about what their research is, but also for people to ask them questions and to have a discussion around those issues too.
Right. So that basically people can go to your website. You say, like, with I guess that will all be online this time. So can people, essentially anyone, turn up to that? Do you have to get a ticket? How does that work?
Yeah, so we're pre-registering. Obviously, one of the things when you do this kind of stuff is you need data to help you evaluate and learn and get funding. So yeah, we're doing, everything's free. But yeah, we're doing pre-bookings just via Eventbrite, and to help us kind of manage Zoom and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah, it's all, if people go on our website, they can find all the events and how to book and stuff.
All right. So is there like a maximum or a minimum for some of the talks, or is it because there's going to be an engagement, a Q&A? Is that?
Yeah, we're going to see how it goes. I don't know if you know how Zoom works, but there's like on the webinar version, if you pay more, you can have more people. So we've gone the lower end, and we'll see how many people sign up. But some of the workshops for children, we're going to be sending packs out. So we've got this workshop where people can make their own bracelets that are kind of coded like DNA. So they get a pack of beads and elastic and stuff in the post. So we've only got a certain number of those. So that will only be 20 Zoom logins. So whether that's 20 families kind of thing. But that's just because we've only got so many beads.
Oh, it sounds really exciting. Really exciting. So How has it been in previous years? I mean, what's the kind of attendance? What's the kind of feedback you guys get?
Yeah, so last year was our biggest year, and we had 10,000 people. And that's quite a conservative estimate. We're not, we're not inflating our figures because that's not helpful. So yeah, that is quite a kind of conservative estimate on how many people we engaged with. And it was great. And we started, and this is something we're continuing, but we started to kind of reach out of so not just working in Nottingham City, which has always been historically kind of where our partners are based and where our target communities are. And so we started to work with Inspire, the library service, and work up in Mansfield and Kirkby, which was super exciting. Putting on events and these families have never been to anything like this before. We had 200 people in Kirkby Library in 2 hours. It was just bonkers. We had 1,500 people in the Rushcliffe Arena. Like, it was just unbelievable. And it's really sad that we can't, build on that next year or this year. So yeah, we're kind of starting to build. So this year is all about kind of maintaining that interest, and we're working with different district and boroughs to kind of get those magazines out into those families' hands, and yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we won't be comparing the numbers for this year's festival to previous years. It's a complete anomaly, but it's an interesting kind of experiment, I guess, to see how it works and what doesn't work, and yeah.
Yeah, I guess like with lockdown, people, because they've been having to rethink, it's a bit like, how do you structure your data? The kind of traditional models now almost don't work because we're having to behave differently as well. It's and that in itself is an interesting science about the psychology and the behavior and how it's affecting us and our mental health. But at the same time, it's a bit like, I was listening to a talk the other day describing how the workplaces now will change with now the ability for workplaces. With working at home, potentially you no longer have to move to where your work is. You can be in Cambridge, for instance, and work in Nottingham because that's where the office would be. You can do that remotely now. So it's going to open the job market up significantly in a different way, and the way that people interact with each other has changed. It kind of the work-life balance is in a bit of flux right now, and it's profoundly interesting.
And for us, it's like, so usually in a normal time, so you put on an evening event and it would start like 7 o'clock because you want people to, finish work, go straight from work, or go home, have some dinner, get to the event. And now it's like, what time do I start it? Like, people finishing on the dot at 5 o'clock should, like, when are people having that, people have got families that they have to, and there's no solution. You just have to pick a time and go with it, is what I think. But yeah, that's kind of coming into and people, we've got this activity that's kind of trying to target lunchtime, people at lunchtime. It's kind of like a brain tricks, kind of a fun little 10-minute session to get yourself away from, what your normal work is. Okay. But what time do people have lunch? Like, I don't know. It's different every day because people are in all sorts of weird routines. So yeah, it's. Yeah. And the other thing is that, these events that we're seeing, I'm seeing people booking in from outside of Nottingham. And the ability to have that kind of national and international reach is something that we'd never have before.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I guess now you can have interaction with people who are from further afield, and they can also involve. Heck, I guess in many ways that if they might be running similar events in their own city potentially with a bit of outreach.
Yeah, I mean, which is great, but also like our thing is very much about it's, we want to be platforming Nottingham-based researchers, and we want to be engaging our local community. So there's that obviously, which is great, but there's all this thing of, well, how do you can't just go and put an event on in St. Anne's and it will attract people there. So how do you reach those communities is much kind of more complex than it would have been in previous years.
So is it more about getting the community engaged from like I hate to use the term deprived areas or BME communities?
Yeah,
focus is.
Yeah, we want to be breaking down those barriers to what it means to be a scientist, and what it means to do science, and who can and who can't. And there's all this research around children having decided by the age of 11 whether or not that's something that's for them or not, and trying to so that a lot of our focus is around primary age, and really kind of igniting that spark early on, and having a whole family experience, so the whole family kind of gets it and is enthused by it and has this enjoyable, positive experience of what science can be. So yeah, that's definitely what we're trying to. But also, it's not just about the career. It's not just about the pipeline. It's also about generally science being amazing and wicked and like mind blowing and exciting, and everybody should have the opportunity to enjoy that. It shouldn't just be for people who think they understand things a bit better than everybody else. It's for yeah, and none of us who actually work on the core, the core Ignite team, none of us are scientists at all. So yeah, we kind of have that eyes wide open feel that I think a lot of non-scientists also have when they're kind of encountering amazing science topics.
It is. I mean, it's when you see that kind of eureka moment in a child's eyes, when they're happy, when they're engaged, or when you see that kind of like, oh, and you know that you helped that happen, and they can go away and be incredibly engaged, and it can change an entire life. Just meeting one person, having one conversation can literally change a person entirely. I mean, I was listening to a story. I'm assuming you know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was listening to his podcast quite often, Star Talk, and he was talking about when he was I think he was 15, and he was waiting at a bus stop, and Carl Sagan came to the bus stop, and he asked him what he was doing, and he'd asked him if he'd been in the science fair, and he said he couldn't afford to go in, and that's actually when Carl Sagan, no, you're coming in with me, and that was his life changing moment. And then of course perhaps the most famous educator, and then Carl Sagan obviously working to break down those barriers about getting people into science, and that was powerful.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all of these. There are so many barriers that are to events that are just happening on university campuses. Well, lots of people in our city would never dream of going over to the university campus or feeling that that's a space that they can engage with. So there's a lot of stuff that we do which is trying to take those. Well, the scientists should come to they should be the ones who are moving. They're the ones who want to be engaging with people. They should be the ones that are coming out of university campus and into spaces where communities are. So that's, and then the free thing is massively that's just such a big barrier. Why would you make an event to be paid for it if it's for engaging communities? That's So we always try and have free or very low prices for our events.
Yeah, I've kind of gone down a similar kind of line myself, where I wanted there not to be a barrier in accessibility. So say my own content, say as an example, say Our Curious World. It started really because I wanted to learn about some topics about science. I wanted to learn. My first guest was a neuroscientist. I found that through my own genetics, I potentially could my brain could degrade in the future with Parkinson's, etc. I was quite worried about that. I was like, how can I learn more? How can I learn to help protect myself? So my first guest was a neuroscientist, and then from there, I kind of I have an interest in a broad variety of topics. So I literally started asking people to come on and come and talk, and I've done like 30 now. I think this is like 33, where I'm interviewing a variety of different people, from geologists to astronomers to authors to artists, musicians, because I absorb this, but I want to engage and see enlightenment in other people, and that inspires me to want to continue doing so. And I love learning, and I love to learn and to engage and educate others. And it's interesting that perhaps
and that thing about just having a question and not and being part of finding out the answer is not obviously you can Google everything, but that thing about also it's about trust, isn't it? If people are speaking to a real human being and they're like smiling and they're they're in a space that's you have ownership over, or they look like you and they talk like you. That really breaks down, that makes that trust so much more powerful, and for you to believe their answers, and to have a genuine investment in what they're talking about. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, we're all about questions and that, being curious.
Absolutely curious. I spoke to so many different people recently, and it's been really good to talk to yourself. And obviously, you're on the same journey as I am, I guess. So it's been pretty cool to engage with you. So.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's been wonderful. So, if I wanted to get involved with your organisation, how can I do so?
Yeah, so online, obviously. Our website is www.notsfosac.co.uk. That's how our affectionate term for the festival is FOSAC. And then the same on social media, Twitter, Facebook. We're actually on TikTok now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not involved in that, but we've got a social media intern from NTU, and she was like, "You need to be on TikTok." So we're on TikTok, but all the others as well, LinkedIn and stuff too.
Yeah, TikTok's a strange little place, and I drop in occasionally, and I see these 30-second videos of usually people dancing to some song I've never heard of, and I'm like, I don't get this. Maybe I'm too old.
Yeah, I don't have it because I waste too much time on other apps already. But I think it's that's where young people are, and video content is so powerful now. I think it's that's where we need to be, and filming stuff and putting on TikTok. But yeah, I'm feel much safer with Twitter, which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah, Twitter's a strange little place, actually. I found that so when Twitter used to be, it was 140 characters or whatever. It was like the same length as a text. So how much communication could you put across in a text? And you kind of saw inventive ways how people were managing to write messages. And I thought that was really interesting. And now, of course, it's now what, is it 250 now you can write on there, and you can do videos up to 2.5 minutes. It'd be interesting to see where they go as an organisation next.
Yeah, because obviously there's so much that you can say, but it's still small, so you agonize over which bits of information you would put in and which bits you have you tagged the right people and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, I think you start taking words out, and can I put them 2 words together to kind of get away with it?
Yeah.
It's good fun. I think social media, has taken over, I guess, normal media. Normal media appears to be coming a legacy now. It's really hard for people to go home and watch the television. It's quite strange.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for us for like in terms of promotion of our events. And I think in the olden days, coverage in the Post, like Nottingham Post, or that would have been what we needed. But now you can do it so much more. You don't have to spend money, or you can just put things on Facebook, and that's where families are. That's like a much more our priority than kind of like traditional media, which is, I guess, a big change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, you said you're engaging with Nots TV as well. So, and your projects there sound really interesting as well. So, actually, on that very note, you said you get 5 hours of television. So, is that like a nightly show? Then is that going to be? Did I hear that correctly?
So it's going to be 4 till 5. It was supposed to be once children coming home from school time, but now it's just exhausted homeschooling. Let's put the telly on time. So yeah, Monday to Friday, it's going to be an hour a night. With suggestions for things that people can do in between, and submit, anything that they've done, and we'll try and include it in the program the next day. Yeah.
So, did you ever watch any science programs growing up?
I mean, not really. Which is, I suppose, like I watched things like QI, which I suppose is just kind of general knowledge stuff. But I mean, programs like David Attenborough and those kinds of things. But no, my kind of background is much more in like the arts and kind of history and geography and those kinds of topics. That's what my household, that's what I grew up watching. But so yeah, no, I'm a bit of an anomaly, really.
Nice. I think my mother used to watch, like, again, David Attenborough, Wildlife on One, Horizon. I used to watch like the kind of political documentaries on like Channel 4, they used to have like dispatches and so on. But like with science, I used to really like Brainiac. I don't know if you ever watched that. It was a kind of a kid's science.
Yes, Brainiac, and then there was that actually the program that was called like How,
Yeah, How
or
to.
like How to, or something like that.
Yeah.
That was really good. Yeah, which I guess is at its core is science is asking questions about how things work, and I guess that was a good program.
So is that a potential for like what we could do next year? We could make our own How to for an entire week.
That would be cool. Yeah, I have to. I bet there's loads of old episodes on YouTube.
I bet there is, you know.
Yeah.
I guess even going back, there was like Tomorrow's World on BBC One as well that ran for like a long time, and that dropped off what 2000. And there's enough sciencey shows, but there's not much kind of science stuff with a presenter show, you know, where there actually is that kind of I guess almost like a live element to it, and that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there's a lot of stuff that has been kind of growing on YouTube and like science communication generally as a field, but there's people like Maddie Moe. I don't know if you've come across her. She does like these and Greg Foote, they do these like YouTube videos of different science topics, and they have lots of links with researchers and stuff. They've been doing lots of stuff in lockdown, kind of helping, because science has been one of the subjects that have just totally fallen off the radar for a lot of families, because it feels difficult to do at home, and it feels like if you didn't enjoy science at school yourself, it's difficult to kind of teach it with your children, whereas English and history and geography and art are much kind of, I don't know, they just seem easier to do. So yeah, these kind of programs are more important than ever, really, I think. And that's why we wanted to do a TV program, because again, lots of, most people do have a television. If they don't have like regular internet access, or they've only got one kind of device in the house, most people do have a television. So that's why we wanted to put something that was not, it's live streamed as well, but it's also has a place on kind of on the big screen television, and people come around and watch it together, kind of thing. So
that's good idea. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
So did you ever have like a favorite science teacher growing up? Well, I guess for you maybe it was more history, geography, but is there any
I always did enjoy broadly lots of different subjects. Yeah, we had some good science teachers. We had a really cool physics teacher when I was at school. But it's just, I just decided, you have to make decisions when you finish GCSEs and you decide which way you go, quite really in an uninformed way. We didn't have a lot of like careers stuff at my school. So I think that's one of the things we're doing. Part of the festival, we've got again 5 days worth of Q&A sessions where that's kind of targeting secondary schools, where we'll have, today we're talking with some engineers and what it is that they do in their job. And one of the people that we've got is a guy from NTU who his background is in product design, and kind of an arts background, but now he works on designing like prosthetic limbs and solutions for like medical kind of interventions in trauma, in like emergency situations. But his background is he's an artist. So I think there's that thing that you make a decision about what you want to do, but at like 16, and it kind of starts you on a path, but it doesn't mean that you can never get off it, I suppose.
It's true. I mean, I found that, I guess, I ended up getting a job. I didn't go through the university state. I really wanted to. I mean, but I have an interest in history, geography, archaeology, astronomy. I wanted to do all those things, and I'm just going, so which one do I get to do? And I realized that, unfortunately, I had to pay the bills, so I didn't get to do any of them.
Yeah.
Although my field of interest is all of them, so I keep a broad foot in the door, as it were, to those people and those topics. But in terms of a profession or an academia, I didn't follow those. Is there room really for people who are mature students?
Oh my God, exactly. I mean, that's what the Sherwood Observatory is. It was set up by amateur, people who like stargazing essentially, and now they've got this amazing, it might will turn into this amazing planetarium in this space, and it's all completely initially at the first stage funded by people who just have an interest in it, want to do it, come together to do it. So definitely, and there's this kind of movement as well that we're really like around citizen science, where no, I mean, at its most basic, it's kind of people taking photos of snails and submitting them to researchers. But we're really interested in this idea that communities can come together and say, I think we should get some research about this. Why are there more snails on the allotment this year? And working with researchers to find out the answers that they've initiated. This idea that just regular people can become researchers, I think, is something that we think could be really powerful. So yeah,
that's really cool. So I guess we've been talking for what, 40 minutes now. Should we draw this to a close here, if you're comfortable?
Yeah.
But no, so I really thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been really good to talk to you and find out more about your organisation, what you guys have been up to. So before we go, do you want to reiterate your social media and your websites and stuff, and talk about those things?
Yep. So our website, www.notsfosac.co.uk, on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, we're at notsfosac, and our hashtag is #CuriousNots.
Yeah. So I think I'll have to change my hashtag slightly. But no, I'm now Curious World, so make sure you tag mine too. That's pretty cool.
Definitely.
But no, it's cool. It's been really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for taking the time out to come and have a chat. So it's good fun. It's also good publicity, and I wanted to reach out and learn what you guys are about, and hopefully you now know a bit what I'm about.
Yeah, let's definitely carry on the conversation as well.